Howdy, and welcome to this new Single Scoop episode. I'm your host, OldR, and I'm joined by my co-host, Serin.
안녕하세요, 여러분.
And today we're going to be talking about the short-lived duo from SM Studios known as J&J. We wanted to cover their career because they're part of early SM history, but there's a lot we don't know about them. That said, what information we were able to find was rather strange, so let's get into it.
Most of what we know about the members comes from the November 1994 Junior article, J&J. The duo was made up of two members, Kang Woo-ji and Kim Joo-yeon. They both graduated from California high schools and were college students before their debut. Kang Woo-ji was born on December 17, 1974 and was 19, international age, at debut. He majored in marketing at UCLA and had 3 older brothers and 1 older sister. Kim Ji-yeon was born on April 26, 1972 and was 22, international age, at debut. He majored in music, specifically studio guitar, at USC and had 1 younger sister. They first met 3 years prior to debut through what the article refers to as a circle called LACC. It wasn't clarified in the article, but we assume they're talking about Los Angeles City College. It was through LLCC they grew close and made music together. They practically saw each other every day as their dorms were about a 30-minute drive away from each other.
Additionally, according to the Junior article, the road to debut began when Woo-ji and Joo-yeon met Lee by chance. He was in the area for a business trip and became interested in them when he heard their demo tape. After 8 months of work, they debuted as J&J in August 1994. Why did they choose to debut as J&J? Well, that's because they had the same American first name, J. While active, they went by J. Kong and J. Kim. J&J is typically stylized as J apostrophe lowercase n apostrophe J, but we also saw it as J lowercase n J and symbol J from SM, the Juno article, and various music-related websites and videos. Before going further, let's talk about what was going on with SM around this time, as a lot of people don't know much about SM Studios. And since J&J are the first artists we're covering from this time, we're going to race through events and artists leading up to J&J. In August 1993, Young-jin debuted as a singer after impressing Lee with his music. In September 1993, SM's first artist, Hyunjin returned with his 3rd album, but was arrested for the 2nd time in November. In February 1994, SM Best album dropped, which included the hits from SM artists including Hyunjin, even though he was gone by this time, and Yoo Young-jin. In March 1994, the duo Major debuted and shortly after ceased activities to our current knowledge. J&J came in at the tail end of a company that built a male-dominated roster with a reputation of debuting artists who were unique.
They had 1 album, Guitar and Dance Single 1, which had 10 tracks. 4 of them were actual songs, and the rest were instrumental or English versions. They only promoted 1 song, but a different song on the album ended up being more popular after it was covered by a junior group on their first album. J. Kong was in charge of the lyrics while J. Kim handled the composition, guitar, piano, and sequence, and computer programming. The cover art is of the head and neck of an upside-down guitar that looks like someone applied a swirl effect. To the left, the album title and artist name are shown in black letters. Unfortunately, there are no pictures of the members in the booklet, and information is limited to the crew and lyrics. The title track was 미지수야 미지수. While the direct translation is unknown number, the expanded meaning would also be something closer to the unknown or the uncertain, such as the future. In conclusion, a mystery. As for the sound, it could be best described as rad. The instrumental is chill, but the vocals are forceful, putting an emphasis on the lyrics. When I say J. Kim was the guy who played the piano and guitar, and did the sequence and computer programming, this is the song that strongly shows all of that. It sounds like something you would have heard on MTV back in the day. As for the lyrics, they're basically a long rant about women. It starts with talking about the qualities/characteristics of women. For example, them being sentimental, graceful, delicate, yet sharp, and able to manipulate or conquer men with these traits. Their words, not mine. And then the members go on to tell men that women have 3 types of power. Power of speech, temptation through sex appeal, and ego. And neither side will truly understand each other, since loving women or trusting men aren't all it takes. The song ends with saying, you, presumably the other sex or gender, are a mystery, and that one must quote-unquote escape, since neither side is quote-unquote a toy. According to the Junior article we referenced earlier, Kong came up with the idea for the lyrics when he took a break at a Denny's during a road trip he went on during summer vacation. By chance, he saw a couple consisting of a very pretty woman and an ugly man. Thought to itself, the relationship or romance between a man and a woman is truly a mystery. Basically, if you've never been to a college class and wonder what they're like, this is the kind of thing you'll be hearing in a discussion group.
As for the choreography, it's admittedly pretty cool. Kong dances energetically like how you'd expect for the time, but Kim had his electric guitar that he'd play and hang on to while he moved, giving the performance an edge. One of the most memorable parts is when the duo skips around, circling each other while their dancers circle around them. According to the Junior article, the choreography became a hot topic because it was unique. Referred to as the power dance, it was a combination of techno, dance, and hip-hop. As for the music video, there are actually a few different versions. But we don't have a definitive explanation as to why that is because we didn't find any confirmation on it, and other artists from this time period didn't do this. So we are making an educated guess based on the visuals and titles provided by the uploaders on YouTube that these were done for or possibly made by different broadcasting companies. Most look entirely different and their credits show different crew members worked on them. For example, there's one that's just them dancing in the street and in the dark with close-ups. Sometimes there's a woman stirring a straw in her drink. The one labeled as being SBS looks similar to visuals and editing styles as some of Deuce's. As they were known for being big SBS guys, there might be some validity to that. But the most interesting one claims to be the first music video. They're dancing on an overpass and there are flashes of photographs of various female celebrities. Most prominent is Marilyn Monroe.
As of this recording, we were only able to find 3 performances of this song. One was likely a rip from a VHS tape considering its low quality. The title says it was from a KBS Top 10 stage, but it's mislabeled since the music show in question is from SBS. They were very energetic and they seem to have a very positive reaction from the crowd. And for some reason, Kim is using a blue electric guitar from the music videos, which is strange because in the other 2 performances, he uses what looks like a brown guitar from the album cover. The second performance is from episode 408 of MBC's 토요일은 즐거워. The crowd is cheering loudly for this one. Female fans especially seem to enjoy the part when Kim gets down with his guitar with one leg stretched out. Think of The Boys but with a guitar and you've got the idea. Unfortunately, this one has edits all over it that kept cutting away to promote other content. The third one we found was for MBC at an outdoor venue and Isuman was one of the MCs, as he was still an entertainer around this time.
The second track is the iconic Your Image in the Sunset. Although it was never promoted or performed on stage, if given the chance, I'm pretty sure this would have been their follow-up track. I listened to a lot of first-gen music, but nothing quite felt like a punch of nostalgia for me like this song. When I first listened to it, I immediately thought of a sunset in Southern California circa 1990s. It's very chill, but it isn't boring. It has a distinct melody that's easy to hum or mumble along to. The lyrics are about a protagonist who talks about a romance that didn't come to fruition and how he had to let go of the girl. He saw her image reflected in the sunset and heard her sad, faint voice from afar. While he didn't know she loved him back, he realizes it now, and he ends up shouting out in self-deprecation, only to fall into deeper sadness.
Those are the 2 main songs you need to know. So here's a quick rundown on the rest of the songs. The third track is 순정 만화 속의 사랑, Love in a Cartoon, which sounds like it was going for a rock sound while still being hip to the electronic sounds at the time. It's about a guy having a dream where he falls in love with a cartoon girl and is sad. The fourth track is 나에게 말해줘, Tell Me. This is the most disjointed song of theirs as the beats, tempo, and instrumental changes multiple times. It starts off with a voicemail message said by a woman for the first 27 seconds. Then there's some slow narration followed by yearning singing. Then it switches into being a bouncy dance track. Then changes pace again. And it ends with one of the J's singing a few interesting lines in English. When you think you're in love, take a good look at yourself. We are J&J man. And it ends with, I like a bass that goes boom. It's about a guy being informed that his lover had to leave, and he's sad about it.
As for the rest of the album, track 5 is an English version of Unknown Unknown called J&J on the Floor, Unknown Unknown English version, but the lyrics are encouraging the listener to get on the dance floor. Track 6 is Tell Me, long version, that picks up where the original song ended by extending the instrumental and repeating the earlier lyrics. Track 7 is Unknown Unknown, including English verse, which is a mix of Korean and English lyrics. Track 8 is J&J on the Floor, including English verse, which is again a mix of Korean and English lyrics. Track 9 is Unknown Unknown instrumental, and finally track 10 is Your Image in the Sunset instrumental. Despite our best efforts, we don't know when or why J&J ceased to promote. The best estimate of a date is November 1994 due to the junior article we mentioned earlier, which was put together in October. So we know they were at least still around by then. But the why is still unknown. From the sources we were able to find, there was at least some interest from the public, but that might not mean their album sold well. But that technically wasn't the end of J&J. In 1996, HOT debuted, and there were 4 songs made by J&J on their first album. The junior group did a cover of Unknown Unknown, which was renamed to About Yoja, or About Woman. Additionally, Your Image in the Sunset was also covered, but didn't have any changes. They also made 2 new songs, The Age of Individual Characteristic, Kaesongshide, and Another Stressful Day, Onodo Jajungna는 Narine. Now, I don't have any proof of this, but I speculate that those 2 new songs were originally for J&J. I think this for 2 reasons. 1, the tracks are in the same vein as their original work, and 2, I refuse to believe 2 guys in their 20s would write Another Stressful Day knowing 3 of the members of HOT were 18 and 2 were 16, international age, at the time of debut. Again, this is just a theory I have, and it's part of my speculation as to what was going on with SM during this whole transitional period.
Sadly, it appears the duo went their separate ways after 1996. We weren't able to confirm this was true as we were unable to find audio for this, but according to ManiaDB, they did the intro for the Shouts of the Reds United Korea Omnibus in 2010. To the best of our knowledge, neither had a consistent career in music. Of the 2, Jae-kyun stayed in the Korean music industry for longer. In 1996, he did the composition and arrangement for Saint Rocky's 숨바꼭질, and in 1998, he was the mixing engineer for Peter Pan's first album. In 2002, he did the composition for Isak N Jiyeon's Tell Me Baby, which some of you may remember, we did a whole deep dive on them. And in 2023, he was featured and worked on the production for Effie's Selfish. As for Jae Kung, he later went under his real name and released EDM music as the DJ Korean Robot from roughly 2015 to 2024. He did mention J&J on his Instagram account, but mainly focused on his current life. But in 2023, he dropped 2 tracks that had simple vocals and instrumentals. One was 주님의 위대하신 나 찬양해, dropped 2023, and the other was 왕이신 나의 주님, 시편 145, which also had the Japanese version. By the way, both songs are somewhat Christian-oriented, both of the titles as well. Because the first one is basically says, I praise the greatness of the Lord. The second is, my God, the King. Hold on, what is 시편 in English? Do you know your scripture?
Isn't that like Psalm? They were originally meant to be sung, so you can find them in songbooks. It's just the whole psalm, and they turned it into a song. Like Psalms 23, big one, so he went that route. That might explain why he's so quiet. Getting back to J&J though, what exactly is the legacy of J&J? Well, for years, HOT's version of Your Image in the Sunset has been their most popular song. Even though it was also a B-side for the junior group, it's still beloved by Club HOT. So that's probably why in 2018, J&J reunited to release the single HOT High Five of Teenagers. It's a remake of Your Image in the Sunset that received the love it should have gotten back in 1994. It appears that both of them were on this track. The instrumental is a bit different and strongly reminds me of the theme for GTA San Andreas, and the title was updated to 노숙의 빛은 그대 모습 Sunset Boulevard. The music video is perfect for the song as it has shots around the Los Angeles area, including a few of the sunset. It's chill and matches the song well. There are also a few shots of Jae Kung dressed in his Korean robot persona. He also posted about it on his Instagram. According to them, the reason why this came about was that they wanted to celebrate HOT's reunion concert. But it seems to be universally hated by HOT fans due to the inclusion of HOT's name and logo, as 1, Your Image in the Sunset was J&J's song first, so they felt that J&J was just trying to ride off of HOT's success, and 2, the album artwork was in bad taste considering the trademark dispute at the time. HOT was banned from using their own trademark for their concert, but J&J used it for this single. Even though the trademark dispute ultimately resulted in the rights later being returned to HOT, that wasn't going on at the time. So personally, I have 2 opinions on this as an HOT fan. It sucks that J&J had no problems with using the logo and name when HOT did, and the timing, even if it had actually had no ill will, was terrible. But I also think it sucks that J&J's most famous song isn't known as their song. I think they should have done the remake as a celebration of their own music, but I'm well aware it wouldn't have gotten nearly the same attention without attaching HOT's name to it, especially since I think J&J did it better. I know that's a very controversial statement, but I'm right. And also the same thing though with Unknown Unknown is that, yeah, HOT did fine with it, but it's the last track on the album. They didn't really do anything with it. Whereas the energy and the interest that was put into it when J&J did it, they just had more interest in it. It wasn't just something that was relegated to the back. Aside from that, their album was included in the wall of albums at the SM Museum, which was how I was introduced to them.
Before we wrap up, we want to discuss questions we still have about the duo. First, when and why did J&J end? Is it related to the changes that came when SM Studios transitioned into SM Entertainment? Was it similar to when Yoo Young-jin went from being a performing artist to a producer? Was it a choice, or were they voluntold? It sounds like they liked the members, similar to Jang Young-jin and Yoo Young-jin, but how did their music end up on that album?
Compared to like Yoo Young-jin, who also worked on the album, Word Sentence didn't take from his stuff. So why did 2 of their songs end up on there, plus also 2 new songs? How did that shake out? We don't know.
We mentioned the different versions of the music video for Unknown Unknown, and we are genuinely curious as to how it came about. It could be a case of SM putting everything into their debut, but then, why did they cease activities so soon after debut?
So you'll know this, when I was going through this, I was strongly reminded of TG.
Yeah.
Yeah, how like they put so much into the debut and then that was it. But clearly it wasn't a financial thing because of what SM went on to do, but it just felt like they gave up very quickly. And I've watched a lot of performances from that time period. The audience was way more interested in them than some of the other ones who I would consider to be bigger hits. But again, interest in a group doesn't necessarily translate into album sales. Especially if they heard that only 4 of them are actual songs, the rest are just different versions and instrumental. People might not have wanted to go for that.
It was put together very lazy.
I think it's very interesting because I'm thinking of later artists.
It almost feels like they're trying to cut costs.
Yeah, trying to puff it up. But I think it's very interesting how they have a full English version and then 2 versions with mix of Korean and English, because it reminds me of early 2nd gen when a lot of artists did similar, where they would say that they had English versions, but then they would leave part of it in Korean still. Like before we had like true, actual full on English versions when they were actually trying to talk to English speaking audiences. That this was from that time, which is kind of interesting. And also, Another Stressful Day does have an English version, which I believe parts of it are still in Korean. So it's just the breakdown of it is fascinating to me. But especially in the early 90s, if like you saw this, I think people would be mad that they'd be paying for an album when only 4 of them would be like actual full songs and the rest were like just basically repeats. Because that is more something that we would expect from like 3rd gen on, I would say. But this time period, absolutely not. That probably felt like such a ripoff. Although this group was very experimental in a lot of the stuff that they were doing. They were combining many things at once.
Yeah, maybe their American backgrounds kind of influenced that composition of the album. Maybe they were like used to having like different singles from one album and they were like, oh, okay, maybe we can do this kind of promotion, and if we get a second album, we'll put more and more.
Yeah, and I assume that before debuting from SM, I assume that they had more songs than what was on their album and also what was given to HOT later. Because I'm reminded of how Yoo Young-jin got into SM, where he would make a demo tape and then SM would go, this is great, I want another one, and another one. And he was just so impressed with how many songs Yoo Young-jin could just do.
You know what? Maybe the songs they gave to HOT are actually their second album outtakes.
That's my suspicion, especially with Another Stressful Day, because it makes way more sense for a college student to complain that they have a hangover and have to go to work than it does
for a teenager.
Yeah, especially, again, 3 18-year-olds, 2 16-year-olds at the time of debut. Kangta didn't have his birthday until like the next month. So this whole album and how that they put it together and what it went on to do, I have so many questions as to the decision making of it, and I did not see any sources that would explain it, because I feel like by the time HOT debuted, J&J really got buried, that there weren't people who were calling out, oh, some songs from J&J are on their album. I have yet to run into any of that, but I hope I do at some point, because hopefully that will explain some of this. And it's quite possible, again, it's the Yoo Young-jin, Jang Young-jin thing, where they saw HOT and they were like, wow, I like these guys. Totally possible. But especially Another Stressful Day does feel like it should have been J&J. Now, HOT, as they've gotten older, they've grown into the song, but at the time when they first sang it, it does not make sense.
Why is the message of Unknown Unknown so different between the Korean and English versions? As the members were fluent in both languages, it seems strange that they wouldn't have just kept it consistent.
Which I know that this isn't new with K-pop, where the English and Korean versions will have a totally different story. Like I mentioned Girls' Generation's The Boys earlier. The story of the Korean version and the English version are totally different, which blows because I think the Korean version story is way cooler. So I'm just curious as to why there's that disconnect, because it can't all just be that the syllables don't work out. There's got to be more to it than that.
My theory is that one of the versions actually started off as the demo, and as they were putting together the album, they decided to record it in the other language, and they just decided to change up the topic. Because I know that it's very common for the actual song to have different lyrical content from the demo it was originally produced in. Like, for example, you see a lot of demos for SM artists, and when you hear the English lyrics they were originally written in, sometimes it's very different. Sometimes they actually change the keyword completely.
Right.
Like, for example, when Bibi Ressa wrote what became Lucifer by SHINee, the original title was Electric. If you hear the little snippet she revealed on a live stream or something, it went something on like electronic, something, never heard this before. It's not like Lucifer at all.
Yeah, but I just noticed though that it feels like when you go from a song that was in Korean to English, it feels like the English, at least in some of the ones I know, it feels like the story is dumbed down to just be a general party song. I think that it would attract a very different group of fans should you have kept the original message.
Why is the name and logo for SM Entertainment on their album when SM Entertainment wasn't founded until 1995? This was a transitional period, but they still should have been labeled as SM Studios. We went looking for the albums of other SM Studio artists, and we found out that they've got this same SM Entertainment logo on their albums as well. This makes no sense. We even went to SM's website, and it still says SM Entertainment was not established until 1995.
We don't know. Doesn't make sense.
After J&J ceased, did they get to go back to college? And lastly, did the Jays ever have plans to reunite prior to the Your Image in the Sunset remake? We don't know, and we possibly may never know.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that when we say that they are the unknown unknown, we mean it. Because this group has more questions and possibly more connections to different things in SM than we are currently aware of.
Well, yeah. There's the saying in Korean, like, artists follow their song titles. It basically means they follow the footsteps of what is mentioned in their titles. Sometimes it can be funny, sometimes it can be ironic, sometimes it can be sad. But they literally became the unknown unknown. So only way I can describe them is that they are an enigma.
And, of course, it's us who are dragging them out to the daylight. Because, to give a disclaimer, I got into them as doing my due diligence for the HOT project because, like, I knew Hyun Jin-young and Yoo Young-jin and also Lee Soo-mon all had an effect on HOT's debut. Like, their music all impacted them. And I was like, well, okay, who else from SM Studios had that impact? J&J was not one I was expecting. And I cannot believe if we had released the project before I'd taken the time to do this, I think we would have handed out misinformation. So it's kind of annoying because it pushes back the timeline, but we want to make sure we get it right. And also because then we can fly through some of this stuff during the episodes because there's a lot to cover in them. So, in conclusion, J&J was on stage for a short time, but their time in the music industry was longer than you might expect. As they debuted during a transitional period at SM, it's probable that there's more to their story than we currently know. So, I'll continue to dive into SM Studios and hopefully have more answers in the future. And actually, this group required a lot more digging than usual. We got a physical copy of the album, and that was how we were able to listen to all 10 tracks, as we didn't see it available online, and we're leaving a link in the description to it. Additionally, we contacted the National Archives to try to get info from them when we hit a brick wall. Through a friend of Serin's, we got scans of the Junior article we mentioned earlier, but there are potentially more articles out there from that time that could shed light on them. Before we received that article, we didn't know who was who because there are no pictures or videos that we ran across that explained who was who, let alone details about where they came from. As of this recording, this episode has more info on J&J than Naver and Namawiki, which is nuts. So, shout out to the power of libraries and physical media. Just to let you know, we are not including the Junior article in here, but I did, however, transcribe the whole thing, and sat and helped me with translations. So if you want to read it for yourself, because it does have more info than what we included, it's down in the script, which it's a very long script. There were a lot of notes and screenshots. So this is one to dig through.
I based in Korea, so I was able to contact the National Library of Korea, which has an archive of like old magazines and documents. The problem was I first contacted them during the Korean national holidays, and so basically my request, I guess, fell through. And then when I went there in person to gather the archive scans, they said they weren't ready. So I chose to request them again, but then I kept waiting for them to answer. So I submitted a request for the scans, but the thing is, I kept waiting for the reply and it still hasn't come yet. I don't know what's taking them so long, but the amount of information we got from that one junior article was more than what we expected. So we are running with that, and it answers a lot of the questions we had about the group. However, the problem is that the National Library makes it very clear that we're not able to redistribute the content because of copyright reasons. I mean, they allow you to request for certain scans for personal research reasons and stuff like that, but you're not able to upload it on the internet. You're not able to distribute it for downloading. So we are going to respect the law. So we decide to provide a transcription of the article as a plan B.
Yeah, because we always like to link our sources. And so the reason why there's less links in this episode than normal is because a lot of it comes from there. Or to be fair though, some of the information like on SM Studios, that's just stuff that I've gained through the years of looking at SM Studios that are in other documents that are going to come out in the future. But that's it for today.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, then please make sure to rate, subscribe, follow, and tell your friends about us. If you want to interact with us or just see more of our content, then you can follow the links in the description to our website and social media platforms. More single scoops are coming your way soon. Thanks everyone. Bye.
안녕.
다음에 봐요.